Thank you, Tracy. And it's wonderful to have so many people on Zoom today. Everything we do at Second Harvest, we do in partnership with others. So really grateful to see so many of our nonprofit partners, so many of our government partners, so many of our electeds on the call today. And thanks for all you all do to join us in our mission of ending hunger in our community. I want to start, yes, thank you, by sharing that this is our 50th anniversary. Second Harvest was founded in 1974 by a group of volunteers who saw that there were so many of our neighbors who were food insecure, while at the same time, millions of pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables were being wasted. That was a time when more produce was grown in our two counties. And that's how Second Harvest got started. It actually got started in someone's garage in true Silicon Valley fashion. And of course, we have grown significantly during that time, but that ethos of neighbors helping neighbors still exists today. And again, just grateful to all of you for being part of Second Harvest and helping us have such a tremendous impact in our local community. If you want to go to the next slide. I want to talk a little bit this morning about just what the need is looking like in our community. And I know many of you experience this in your work every day. And what I've really been trying to emphasize to folks who aren't as close to it is just the impact that the pandemic had on truly magnifying the wealth gap in our community, and how, it really disproportionately impacted low-wage workers, people working in the service industry. And certainly we saw this at Second Harvest just as soon as shelter went into effect. And so many households, and these were often households that had very little savings to begin with, when people suddenly lost their jobs, we saw the need for our services increase dramatically. And within a matter of months, we started doubling the number of people we're serving. You can see by this graph that there was a period of time when that need started to decline as people were going back to work. And then as soon as inflation hit, and in particular, when the cost of food and fuel really skyrocketed, and of course, if you're a low-income household, food and fuel is such a significant part of your budget. When we saw those changes, then we started to see the need for our services increase again. And then Tracy mentioned earlier, CalFresh emergency allotments ending. When we saw those allotments and other government benefits that occurred during the pandemic start to go away, and that was about a year ago, again, that just contributed to the level of need continuing to rise. And now we are back up to serving 500,000 people every month. Again, this is through our network of over 400 nonprofit partners. And that's actually 1 in 6 of our neighbors. You can go to the next slide. I wanted to talk a little bit just about where our food comes from. At Second Harvest, we do have the benefit of stretching our dollars really far because the majority of our food is donated. 81% of it is donated. And a lot of our food is also rescued. And we are fortunate to be part of our California Association of Food Banks Farm to Family program, where we are partnered with packers and growers to get their culls, to get their oversized and undersized fruit and vegetables, to get their funny looking carrots. And we're able to have that produce donated to us. We just pay a handling fee and then the transportation to get it to us. And that is more than half of the food that we provide. We do purchase a little less than 20% of our food. We do a lot of food rescue, which is also done through our partners. We try to connect people with retailers close to them. And then we do get some food from the USDA, from the government. And that is a source that during the pandemic increased dramatically. That really helped us through those really tough times. And unfortunately, that has gone back down to closer to those pre-pandemic levels. And so now that's only about 8% of our food. And then we do get some donations through Feeding America and other places in the community. And you can see by that side note that we do get produce from other sources than farm to family, like from our food rescue. And so now almost 60% of what we distribute is fresh fruits and vegetables. Go to the next slide. Another way we really maximize our dollars is through volunteers. We are so grateful for the incredible volunteer support we have, both at our warehouses and out at our distribution sites. And this is something that, of course, really went down during COVID. We were able to bring in the National Guard and then the San Jose Conservation Corps, thanks to the support of the city, to carry us through those tough times. And now we are back up to we had 40,000 unique volunteers last year, the equivalent of 136 full-time staff, and they are really core to all we do. And having these volunteers and having so much donated food is how, for every dollar donated, we're able to provide enough food for 2 meals. If you can go to the next slide. Something we really want to convey today is that we are we've seen this dramatic increase in need, but we're having to try to meet it with a lot fewer resources than we had at the height of the pandemic. We are serving 100% more people still, but we are only raising about 60% more than we were pre-pandemic. And government funding, we received a lot of additional government funding at the height of the pandemic, but we are back down. Next year, we're anticipating it'll probably be less than 5% of our budget. And this is a real challenge for us. Fortunately, we did save up some reserves during the pandemic that are helping us support some deficit spending as we get back to a balanced budget. But this has been a real challenge. We've had to make some cuts to our food budget, things like instead of people getting eggs and milk and chicken at every distribution, alternating the times that people receive those products, just because, again, this is a strain our entire network is feeling, to have to try to support the same level of need with a lot fewer resources. So we are really looking to our community and to our government partners for support to be able to continue to hold up this incredible safety net that, again, together with our partners, we were able to really grow during the pandemic. If you go to the next slide, I just want to take a moment to talk about our strategic plan. Coming out of the pandemic, we are really trying to lean into our mission of ending hunger in our community. And our strategic vision has us continuing to focus on meeting that very immediate need for food assistance, and doing that by just continuing to look at how we can deepen our relationships with local communities, how we can create an even more equitable system of support for our neighbors, but while also looking for those places where we can begin to address the root causes of hunger. And of course, Tracy will talk about this in more detail later in our presentation. But when you look at our big pillars of goals, that first goal is all around getting from this crisis response mode to a more sustainable way of working. So that's the last piece I talked about, was how can we get back to being able to meet this high level of need, but given that we have fewer resources today. And we also have a capital campaign project, a project to consolidate our facilities into a new building that will help us achieve some of that sustainability. Our second pillar is all around increasing our impact by working more deeply in our community. And Maya is going to talk about that later in our presentation. We also, of course, have some internal goals around equity and belonging. And our last pillar is around educating, inspiring, and engaging our community to take action. And really grateful to all of you for the advocacy work that you join us in, again, around our mission of ending hunger.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Leslie. And now I'd like to turn it over to Maya Murphy, who is our Vice President of Programs and Services, to talk a little bit more about how we're doing this work in the community.
Perfect. Thank you, Tracy and Leslie. You can go to the first slide. All right. So Leslie highlighted, just how we get everything that we get done, how we get it done. And it would not be possible without the support and the collaboration, the knowledge, the lived experience, everything of the organizations that we partner with. We have nearly 400 partners all throughout Santa Clara, San Mateo counties, and really over 900 sites across both counties as well. And all of the food that we provide to partners and clients is free of charge, and that's something that we're very, very proud of. We also partner with local, state, and federal groups, which, again, really helps connect us to or connect people with food resources in their neighborhood, and also look at what streams of food, what funding streams, what advocacy issues are important to communities, and how can we support in really elevating those voices and making some really incredible things happen in the communities that we work in and we serve and we live in. You can go to the next slide. And so, Leslie shared the strategic plan, which looks very different than previous strategic plans that we've had, in that we're coming out of a period of a lot of growth, a lot of scaling, a lot of looking at, again, these new funding streams, these new food streams that came in 2020, 2021. They're starting to phase out now. And a lot of our, all of our partners are really experiencing this as well. So we really realized that we need to start thinking about what our role is in solving for the bigger problem, what our role is in, understanding what the real challenges are in communities. Is it just about food? Is there, other issues that we could be supporting that don't just involve getting food through that community? And so that is what this big project that we are calling Deepening Community Relationships. And it's a big cross-functional project that we're working on. And the purpose of it is so, we can understand what the big challenges are, and we know that they will be better addressed if we're really working in deep collaboration together with our partners, with local electeds, with community leaders, with stakeholders that we don't even have relationships with yet. So this project is really about understanding all of those connections and, furthering our impact. And so the objectives of this project are, again, deepening our relationships, understanding what keeps everyone up at night in these communities in terms of being stakeholders, local officials, organization leaders, all of that. And we also want to do this through increasing our engagement with people experiencing food insecurity, and understanding what are the root cause issues of hunger that lie in these communities, and are these things that we can advocate for. This is a deep partnership with the advocacy team, with Tracy and Rachel, and really, again, elevating these voices and being part of that bigger solution. You can go to the next slide. And so, this is a big project, and really it's a multi-year goal. The first year, fiscal year 24, really being about exploration and learning and setting up some of these frameworks. And so, we are starting to put together a pilot for what this kind of more holistic neighborhood approach could be. And the things that we're doing this year are, sort of deepening and solidifying our understanding of what the community needs are, what the resources are, again, not wanting to duplicate efforts, not wanting to create something that already exists and we could just support it in a different way. So getting a better understanding of all of that, and advocacy opportunities as well, developing and strengthening existing partnerships, and also a focus on building new relationships from that place of we need to be working together, and the impact that we could have together is far greater than if everybody did something on their own. We want to identify the areas of greatest impact on food access and other root cause issues, and we want to figure out how to launch this kind of hyperlocal neighborhood approach across the wider service area. What areas should we prioritize first? What areas could we gain an understanding of and kind of watch as, a little bit of time goes by, all of that. So that is what this entire approach is about.
Thank you so much, Maya. And, now we're going to dive into the advocacy. I should have mentioned at the beginning, we will have opportunities for questions, but this year we're trying to cram an awful lot into a very small time window because we know how busy everyone is. So I'm going to go through some of our policy principles and root cause. Then I'll take a few questions after that. I saw your comment and question in the chat, Councilmember Schneider, and that's very helpful. We definitely want to work with you on that. And then we may have some time for questions at the very end. But I'm going to start by diving into where we've been and what our core policy principles have been. The policy principle that has been on our agenda for as long as I've been here, at least, is that access to nutritious food is a human right. And that has given us kind of the confidence and ability to speak out on all kinds of different food issues, whether it's increasing access to programs like CalFresh for different kinds of immigrants, whether it is increasing school meals. So this has given us a very broad base and expertise in food issues. We have partners both across the state and federal that we work on with these issues very closely. Our second policy principle is that we evaluate all policies for impact on diversity, equity, and inclusion. There are so many policies that sound great on the face of it, but if you don't really dive in and look at who is it benefiting, is it benefiting the people who are most in need, or is it a policy where it will definitely benefit everyone and therefore lift all boats? We have been surprised sometimes when we dig into some of the policies who they would benefit. So we are very intentional about evaluating that in any policy that we review and making sure that it is increasing inclusion in our community. That includes things like advocating for people who are leaving prisons and jails to be automatically signed up for CalFresh. Intensifying outreach services to people who may qualify for benefits and not know about it. So this is something we're really very committed to. Our third policy principle is one we added a few years ago, if you go to the next slide, Emily, and that is that community voice matters. We have realized that as the food bank, we have access to a large swath of our community that doesn't always get all the information they need in order to register and access their voting rights. And so the last few years, we've worked very closely with the elections offices of both counties. We've had them host tabling events at a lot of our food events and food distributions. They've been incredibly popular and well attended. So we feel really great about that. We've also focused it internally. We are a fairly large organization of, over 200 people. And so we have also done a lot of internal education to ensure that everyone who works for our organization, whether in our development organization or in our warehouses, knows how they can access their right to vote. So this is something we just did a big push on for the primary, and we will be active again in the fall. If you go to the next slide, I'm going to start to just review where we've been focusing in the past, and we're going to have some deep dives on some of these. School and summer meals has been a big focus area for us. We were one of the food banks that pushed hardest for California to move to universal school meals, and Rachel will be sharing more about where we are with all of that. CalFresh and SNAP, we are the largest partner to sign people up for CalFresh and SNAP outside of our counties, and we work closely with our counties, and we're always looking for policy improvements in that area. And Kelly Chu, our Director of Food Connection, will be sharing more about that. We also work on food as medicine. We have a large nutrition team. Maya's programs team have built some really strong relationships as we start to explore how we can connect our community to nutritious food in order to increase health and improve people's lives and ability to thrive. We have strong partnerships with several of our large medical providers and hospital systems, where we have set up situations where they are referring patients to us if they identify that they have food insecurity, and get them connected to our distributions in CalFresh. We are interested also in creating a much more equitable food system, and this is played into our policies in a number of different ways, especially during the pandemic. We supported a lot of policies and legislation that protected workers in fields, kitchens, and grocery stores. These are the people who are providing the food that we all need, and we want to make sure that we are speaking out on their behalf. Another issue that has become really apparent in recent years is a lot of the inequities in how The federal government in particular has resourced communities of color who are ranching or farming, and they've been excluded from a lot of state and federal programs. There are big pushes at the federal level and also at the state level to remedy that, and we are extremely active in trying to engage with our partners and understand how we can move forward those policies and ensure that everyone is included in the programs that allow us to have a healthy food ecosystem. And then another one is food access for the unhoused. This is a challenging issue. The people who are unhoused in general, we're all struggling with how to help them, but often we forget about food access. And it's kind of a patchwork across cities and counties about where people can get food, which encampments, which locations near encampments. And it's a tricky issue because people generally don't want those encampments to exist. But access to nutritious food is a human right. So we think it's really important that we ensure that the people who are unhoused have access to the food they need so that they can make progress in their lives. Food rescue is another huge area that we work on, and Joan Sanborn from our sourcing department will be talking about how we address that. And then Rachel will be talking some about the supportive food banks that we advocate for. And we spoke about voter registration. So if you go to the next slide, I'm going to dive into a little bit the newest part of our policy agenda, which Leslie and Maya were referring to, which is expanding out a little bit more to address the root causes of hunger. We have always been a very strong voice on food itself, but this is a newish area to us that we're really going to be exploring and deepening our work in the year ahead. If you can go to the next slide. We believe that systemic racism and other inequities are the root causes of hunger. And as part of our mission to end hunger in our community, we're going to be exploring how we can support root cause solutions. We recognize that we don't have the expertise in this broad area that we do in food. So we are going to be really approaching this with humility and a desire to learn from our partners and from our community. We're going to be working in coalition and focusing on solutions where we can have the greatest impact. If you go to the next slide. What we want to accomplish is that impact. This is going to be a years-long project, right? None of these root cause problems are going to be solved overnight, but we really want to get ourselves educated, work with existing coalitions, support key policies, and identify the areas of greatest potential impact. We don't know yet how often we will encounter things where maybe there isn't a coalition, and we want to help create one. I think for most of this year, we will probably be working with organizations that already have coalitions. We'll be learning and trying to figure out how our voice can support, or how we can bring additional analysis, community voice, those sorts of things to the work that they are doing. We are also hoping that through those coalitions, we'll be able to amplify our work on food issues because when we do have these engagements of people who are working on housing, on income, everyone's worried about food insecurity. So, we can all work better together, I think. And we're going to be learning and iterating. The constraint I'd like to note is that, as Leslie mentioned, we are in a situation where we are looking at declining resources, not increasing. So we are not expecting our advocacy department to grow. We are a small but mighty department. There are 2 people on my team focused on advocacy. And we really need to maximize our impact for the resources invested. If you go to the next slide. So this is how we're thinking about approaching root cause. We will continue to really champion and lead in food areas. That's kind of the base of the pyramid, that supportive food banks, CalFresh, school and summer meals, food as medicine. That's not going to change for us. But where we want to most start exploring coalition work are in 3 key areas. We went through a process over the last year or so of really looking at, there are dozens of root cause issues that you could focus on. And so we spent a lot of time trying to figure out where we thought that our experiences would best be utilized, the areas where we thought there would be the greatest impact for our community. And we've identified these three areas as our first areas. The first one I want to talk about is income and safety net. We all learned during the pandemic that income makes a huge difference in food insecurity. I mean, that shouldn't be shocking, but in some ways it is. When we had the child tax credit, that halved child poverty overnight. And we also have been advocating for increases in the earned income tax credit. So, and also we have also seen instances where we need to be increasing minimum wages in order to bring them closer to livable wages. So, we think that's a primary place where we want to be able to speak out and support the existing coalitions. We have been doing some of that. We're looking to learn more on how we can support. And that work will probably happen mostly at the federal and state level on average. The other area that we really want to deepen our learning is in affordable housing. We all know that food insecurity is different here in Silicon Valley. It is different because of our cost of living, which is primarily driven by the cost of housing. And so affordable housing has a huge impact on food insecurity. So we really want to be able to speak out on affordable housing solutions. We also recognize what a complex area this is. So you will probably see us speaking out on big top-level solutions, bond measures, things that are really supporting the creation of more affordable housing. The likelihood that we will be getting deep enough into this area with our small resources to be advocating for specific housing developments, that's probably not going to happen right away, if at all. But we really want to be a voice for how important these solutions are and how we all need to remain laser focused on increasing affordable housing. I think that work will happen primarily at the state and local level. The last area that we want to spend more time exploring is in environmental justice. Everyone in our community deserves to have a safe and clean environment, clean water, clean air, and to be protected from the impacts of climate change. This is one that I think will happen primarily at the local level, somewhat at the state level, but I feel like this is one of the areas where over time we may discover we can have the greatest impact. Just as an example, there are several communities in our service area that don't believe that they have access to safe drinking water. And, we have identified some coalitions that are starting to dig into that. That seems like an area where we might really be able to help get resources, research, put together policy solutions. So these are the kinds of things that we're going to be trying to explore this year and understand how we can work with all of you to solve them. If you can go to the next slide, I just want to briefly touch on how we're going to evaluate which policies we'll support. First and foremost is impact on hunger. Can this policy help to end hunger? I think all of the things we've been discussing today are all pieces of being able to do that. Secondly is centering our community. We're really going to be looking at whether the issues we're trying to address have emerged in our conversations with clients and partners. And racial equity. Does the policy advance racial justice and equity? We're always going to be looking for that inclusion and ensuring that that we're supporting solutions that help everyone. We're also on the more practical end, going to be looking at policy pros and cons. Are there reasonable solutions to the issue we're looking at? If we don't have a solution to even propose, we probably won't dive in. And also chance of progress. And this does not have to be tomorrow. We worked on universal school meals long before it really seemed doable, but we could see what the solution was. And we knew that part of the challenge was educating people and building the data and the pathways to get us to that final solution. So we will be looking for places where even if it's a little bit longer term, we can see what the path might be. So that brings me to the end of my presentation on the root cause. And I think we have, Rachel, don't we, just a few minutes for questions now?
Yes, I think we can take 2 questions.
Okay, excellent. I'm just going to glance in the meeting chat and see if we have any. Okay, I'm not seeing any in the chat other than your comment, Councilmember Schneider. Does anyone want to raise their hand, and then we'll let you unmute and share your question? Quiet group. Okay, I see one question in the chat. Is Second Harvest working with the continuum of care? Yes, we are. We don't work directly with them. We're aware of them. We will definitely be working with all of those folks whenever we're talking about unhoused and that sort of thing. Those are really crucial groups, and we're really appreciative of all of the work that they're doing and look forward to collaborating on how we might get food more into that conversation, as well as helping with the root cause solutions around affordable housing from the in-house. Councilmember Schneider, I see your hand.
Good morning. I had thought by this time in my career that we
Councilmember
would have
Schneider,
a-
I think you're echoing.
not sure what to do.
Still
Still echoing?
You are still echoing. Rachel, do you know why that might be? I do not know why that might be. You don't have 2 devices going, do you?
Nope.
Do you have
Okay,
like
well,
a
I can hear you. I think if you keep the question short, we can probably deal with the echo.
Gleaning programs. Gleaning programs.
Okay.
Here in North County, we do actually have sun, and we do have heat, and we do have abundance of fruit and vegetables, but we don't have the resources. So maybe collectively with San Bruno, some of the other cities, we could get a gleaning program going.
That's great. Okay, so I understood your question to be about gleaning programs, getting more resources in North County. Yeah, we have a lot of partners who do a great job with gleaning in addition to our food rescue. We have Village Harvest down here. I don't know if organizations like that might be willing to expand and move into San Mateo, but we are so appreciative of all the different ways. And for people who don't know, gleaning can mean rescuing any kind of food, but it often means, for instance, picking backyard fruit in people's yards if they may have an apricot tree that otherwise is going to go to waste. And one of our partners has tons of volunteers who proactively go out and do that work and then donate the food to the food bank so we can get it to our partners.
Tracy, I would only add that here in North County, across the board from the nonprofit sector, we're missing a lot of what Silicon Valley, the Senator has. So building and whatever we can do to try to bring this up here across the board.
You know, Councilmember Schneider, I think your echo is getting a little worse. So I'm not sure I got all of that, but let's circle back together after the meeting and figure out how we can work together on that. All right, I am going to turn it over to Rachel Monaco to talk about school and summer meals.
Thank you. I was just getting my spotlight set up. Hi, everyone. Rachel Monaco, Senior Manager covering policy and advocacy here at Second Harvest, and I'm going to kick off our deep dive into a few different policy areas that will be supporting this year. Next slide. Thank you. So to start off, universal school meals. As Tracy mentioned, Second Harvest of Silicon Valley has been a long-time proponent of getting universal school meals passed, and we are so thrilled that California now has this program. So in California, all TK through 12 public and charter school students can eat 2 meals at school every day at no cost to them. This is the 2nd year of this program's implementation. So our food bank has maintained really close contact with all the school districts across San Mateo and Santa Clara counties so that we can keep an eye on this program's rollout and understand the positives and the opportunities to improve the program. So first, what's going well? This program really builds equity. There's no longer shame or stigma attached with eating school meals. Students are no longer labeled free, reduced, or paid when they're going through the meal line. We also found that with the establishment of California's Universal Free School Meals program, those students who come from middle income families, so those families who, those families who were not previously eligible for free school meals through the federal program. Sorry, Emily, do you mind going back? Well, thank you. Okay, sorry. So those students who were not previously eligible under the federal free and reduced price meal program because they did not meet the federal poverty line threshold, but were still really struggling with the cost of living here in Silicon Valley, those students are now able to eat meals at school at no cost to them. It's really wonderful. We also found locally that schools began serving breakfast for the very first time because they had to. We also saw greater adoption of cooking meals from scratch. And the state of California has been really generous in providing what's called KIT funds, or Kitchen Infrastructure and Training Funds, which schools have been able to use to upgrade their aging infrastructure and help increase the number of meals that they're able to prepare as school meal participation has increased. These funds have also provided training so that staff can learn how to cook more foods from scratch, as well as additional funding support for farm-to-school programs so that schools can source produce from local regional farms. All wonderful things. And California is a trendsetter, of course. So now 8 states have passed their own version of a universal school meals program. And I believe there's about 25 or so with their own efforts underway. So we really hope to see this, this tide turn very soon. Next slide, please, Emily. Thank you. Of course, this is only the second year of this program's rollout, so there are still opportunities to improve. So we have a few suggestions that we hope to pursue at the local, state, and federal level. When I say local, I mean very local, school district level. So first, schools can make sure that students actually have the opportunity to consume those meals that are now available to them at no charge. One suggestion is to alter the school day schedule so that recess comes before lunch. This simple switch has been shown to increase the consumption of healthy foods like fruits and vegetables, which are often the most wasted items from the school day. Also, we took a survey of school districts across our 2 counties to understand how much time students had available to eat their meals. In some cases, kids only had as little as 17 minutes to transition from their classroom to the cafeteria, get through the line, eat the meal, and get back. That's simply not enough time. Finally, we want to make sure that our school nutrition staff are paid a livable wage with benefits. Food service workers are usually the lowest paid members of a school staff, and they often are scheduled in such a way that they are just under the threshold to be eligible for any kind of benefits. We can do better. At the state level, there have recently been some rumblings as the state is facing its deficit to cut funding for universal school meals. Now is not the time to cut funding for this program when it's in its early infancy. We need to ensure that there is adequate funding to keep this program going and keep it strong and successful. In fact, we would like to see continued funding to support the increased projections for more students consuming meals at school, as well as ongoing funding for that kitchen infrastructure and training, which schools still need to continue upgrading their school kitchens to serve demand. Finally, at the federal level, we do hope to one day see a child nutrition reauthorization bill, which includes free school meals for all nationwide. Or at the very least, we'd like to very closely examine the community eligibility provision so that reimbursement rates for those school districts participating in this program are able to receive adequate reimbursement that actually incentivizes them to use it. So this is a federal program which supports providing free school meals to all. Next slide, please. Sorry, one more, thanks. Finally, for many of you who may not be aware, there is a brand new federal nutrition benefit program going into effect this summer 2024, called Summer EBT. California was actually one of the first states in the nation to commit to rolling this program out, so kudos to California. This program will provide low-income school-age students with a debit card with $40 per month for the summer, or $120 total, that those families can use to purchase groceries during the summer months when those students who would have relied on school meals don't have access to that program. So it's a direct nutrition benefit program to supplement the meals that are lost during the summer. We anticipate a little over 30% of our student population is going to be eligible for this program. So we're really excited to see this roll out. Second Harvest of Silicon Valley has long supported summer meal sites across our school districts and YMCAs and libraries and other community-based organizations. But that program does have some challenges. Students have to travel in the middle of the day to that site in order to eat those meals there. For working families, it's often impossible for them to take time out of their day to transport their child for this. So we're really happy to see this direct benefit program roll out. And of course, we'll keep an eye on it too, to see how the implementation goes. And if there are any challenges or opportunities that come up, we'll try to fix this. I believe now I am handing it over to Kelly Chu, our Director of Services, to talk a little bit about our Food Connection team and CalFresh.
Thank you, Rachel. This is Kelly. Good morning to you all. It is my honor to share our work with you all. Our Food Connection team that we connect our client to the food assistance resources, including the free grocery, CalFresh, and also the home delivery program. Emily, would you mind to go to the next slide, please? As you can see, this is our wonderful client-facing team, and then we have 16 bilingual staff because we really understand how important to making the connection with our community member by removing the language and cultural barriers. Our team pretty much that cover all the major spoken language in the communities. In addition, we can also using our third-party language support line for the client who doesn't speak all those major languages, and then we can help as well. For the ease of the access, client can also reaching us by simply calling our hotline number or just submitting a contact form requesting a phone call. We are also offering the self-service tool to empower our client to look up and apply a food assistance program anytime on their own schedule. So can I move to the next slide, please? I would like to also share some local impacts in terms of CalFresh here. CalFresh or the SNAP at the federal level, it's a very critical safety net program to help clients to purchase the food at their own and also for their household. Our team played a very key role to introducing the CalFresh to the public. In the last fiscal year, we screening more than 9,600 clients for the CalFresh eligibility, and also 1,400 of the applications were approved. So that's kind of bringing us that $5.2 million in the annual benefits to our clients. This is also translate $7.9 million in the economic activities for those benefits were spent. Again, the CalFresh, it's not only supporting the low-income people, but they also support the local businesses and the farmers market when the benefits were spent. Can I move to the next slide, please? Here, I also want to kind of talk a little bit more about strengthening the safety nets. Again, CalFresh is one of the best tools to support the low-income people, but then we also know that it doesn't quite go far enough. There are still a lot of barrier built into the system, which preventing some of the people they really need it, but they cannot accessing it. There are 3 major bills that we're really watching out for this year for the CalFresh and the SNAP. The first one is Food for All. So Food for All would expand the eligibility for the state-funded nutrition program for the low-income immigrants. Non-citizen, they are not eligible for the federally funded CalFresh program, but they are still facing a lot of food insecurity, just like the others. This bill would expand the California Food Assistance Program to support all low-income immigrants, regardless of their immigration status. There's currently a planned rollout of the program expansions to the age 55 and older in October 2025. As the state budget negotiation unfold, we will be keeping a very close eye on to making sure that there's no delay in the implementation. The second bill is the California Fruits and Vegetable EBT pilot, which is a double program to allow CalFresh users to double their benefits at the grocery store when they buy the California grown food. We have been pilots the program and operating in a few small grocery stores here in Santa Clara County. Funding for the pilot is about to run out, and then we would like to see additional support to keep it going, and if we can kind of expand to more locations if possible. Last year, the pilot program, it's already provided estimate $190,000 in benefits to the resident here in Santa Clara County already. The last bill we're also watching out is the EAT Act. At the federal level, the EAT Act would expand the access to the CalFresh for the college student by having the college attendance to meet their work requirement. We are currently working with 13 colleges in our region to support their basic needs center and helping the student to apply for CalFresh benefits. You cannot imagine how the college student having such a huge need for the food assistance, and there's many barriers preventing them to get help. Most of the low-income students, they still need to work to meet the eligibility requirement when they're attending the school. Many people might be just thinking about that college students still getting the support by the family, but most of the time that is not the case. So this is the section for me today. And then I would like to introduce you Joan, who is our senior manager of the food sourcing team, to share the impact of food rescue. There you go.
Thank you, Kelly. My name is Joan Sanborn, Senior Manager of Food Sourcing here at Second Harvest Food Bank. Talking to you today about food rescue. As Leslie mentioned at the beginning of our presentation, today the environment we're in, we're seeing decreased financial donations and our costs have significantly risen, and we are serving pre-pandemic numbers of people. So it's more important than ever that we identify new sources of food. Grocery rescue is the one area that's really growing as a source of food. And part of that is due to the passage of SB 1383, which requires food generators like grocery stores to donate their edible food. You might not know, but this isn't new for us. Our organization has been involved in food rescue my entire time here, more than 10 years, but it's grown significantly with the passage of SB 1383. This slide is showing that grocery rescue, food rescue, it's good for the planet too. This is something new that we're starting to communicate, the impact, the environmental impact of rescuing food, eliminating surplus food from going to the landfill. So for last year, a fiscal year, we calculated that we recovered more than 86 million pounds of food, which saved more than 44 tons of carbon dioxide and over 2 billion gallons of water. Those are hard numbers to wrap our heads around. So we have these diagrams here to just give you a little bit of a sense of that. So that's the equivalent of taking about 10,000 passenger vehicles off the road per year. So that's a lot. And for swimming pools, that'd be the equivalent of over 3,000 plus swimming pools filled with water. Next slide. This is a little bit more detail about how we rescue food from these food generators, retailers, donors. Path 1 is the most prevalent path where we empower our partner agencies. We provide them with the equipment, the training, that's everything from identifiable vests to wear, receipt books, name badges, thermometers, scales, everything they need to in training in food safety, conduct a pickup. They do the boots on the ground work, going to the park, going to the food donor, getting that food, bringing it back. They have to weigh it by category, report those pounds to Second Harvest. We report it from there and then distribute the food to the clients. That is 90% of our grocery rescue, grocery stores. Path 2 is we do employ our food bank drivers and their large tractor trailers. They're mostly paired with our large manufacturers, wholesalers, distributors, and they will pick up that food, bring it into our distribution facility. It's sorted and then that's distributed out to the community along with the other food that we distribute. Next slide. So to support the growth in food rescue, we've really partnered with our partner agencies and looking for new partners to join us in this work, looking for new food donors to join us in this work. Now we have over 100 of our partner agencies in our grocery rescue program, and they pick up more than 700 pickups per week from retailers. Big number to wrap our heads around. is no possible way we could have a fleet of food bank drivers to do the work that our partner agencies are doing. That average is about 35,000 pickups last year. Tier 2, that's the second requirement of SB 1383, was implemented January of this year. That requires food generator donations from different types of food generators, such as restaurants, medical facilities. A lot of it is prepared food. We aren't currently directly working with those types of food generators, but we are working closely with San Mateo County and Santa Clara County. And our partners are really excited about this opportunity. So we are providing technical assistance and resources to help our partners be able to access this type of food. One thing that's really on our mind is thinking long-term about continuing this food rescue work. Nonprofit organizations, we're taking a heavy lift. It's a lot to do this. It isn't easy work. There's not an app that we can magically get the food from the place that has it to the people that need it. So we're really looking for infrastructure to expand and operate this. And we really need further investment specifically set aside for nonprofit food recovery organizations like ourselves and our partner agencies who are doing this work. So thank you. And I'll pass it back to Rachel now.
Thank you, Joan. I have the final slide in our presentation today. We have, oh, sorry, Adam, can you go on to the next one for me? Thank you. So we have representatives from cities, counties, state, and federal offices here today, as well as a large number of our policy advocate colleagues. So I just wanted to leave you all with a few action items for you to take back for consideration in your own work. At the city level, we call on you to evaluate the food access needs of your local community. Do you understand what organizations are providing food assistance? Do you understand the demographics of the people who are receiving that food assistance? There are ways that cities can support this effort by providing space, funding, or other infrastructure needs. And please do consider us your partner as you go about that work. At the county level, we look forward to continuing our collaboration with our local counties, as well as our partner network, to ensure that our community has access to nutritious food. We do ask you to continue to support that charitable food network through funding or other means. At the state level, we would really love to see a continued $60 million annual ongoing funding for CalFood. This important program helps food banks like ours all across the state purchase Californian grown foods, which we're then able to supplement our other donated and other purchased items to provide directly to our community. At the federal level, hopefully, there's a farm bill coming soon. We ask for continued investment in TFAP. That's the Emergency Food Assistance Program. We really need that ongoing funding for that program, which helps us source those foods all across the country. And finally, we ask the federal government to continue investing in proven anti-poverty programs, including various tax credits like Tracy mentioned near the beginning, as well as the whole suite of nutrition programs. Thank you. We do have a few minutes left for Q&A if anyone would like to ask a question, but I'll hand it over to Tracy to field those questions.
Yes, I know that many of you probably need to leave as it's 11 straight up. We can certainly stay and answer some additional questions, or at least some of us can. And so thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate your engaging with these issues. And if you have a question, please go ahead and raise your hand, and we can answer a couple more questions. I see Joanne Sandoval. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, I just was wondering if you could go any further in depth as far as what kind of work you're doing to help farm workers in particular. I'm calling from Puente de la Costa Sur, so nonprofit on the coast, and our primary the primary people that we're working with are farm workers, and one of their biggest concern is the lack of affordable housing on the coast. So I was just wondering if there was any more specifics you could go around your support for farm workers in particular.
Yeah, well, as you know, a number of our nonprofit partners on the coast, and in fact, including you all, I believe, are primarily supporting farm workers. So we've been active on the food side. And in this year ahead, we'd like to understand how we can help with issues like affordable housing. And we know that even the counties are interested in this. So we are really looking forward to learning more and understanding how we can support in that regard, because it is such an incredible need in our community. We also end up working with farming communities throughout the state through Leslie's work on the board of the California Association of Food Banks. So I don't know, Leslie, if you have anything particular you'd like to add there, but we are trying to keep an eye on both local and state farm worker issues.
Yeah, I think you covered that well, Tracy, and thank you for the question. And just as you said, this is an issue we're sensitive to in our own local community, particularly along the coast, but also at the state level, especially since there is such a high level of need among farm workers who are also producing so much of this wonderful produce that we're able to share in our community. So at the state level, we've just been doing a lot at how we help our food bank partners who are in the Central Valley, who are in areas where so much of our fresh fruits and vegetables are grown, better support farm workers in their communities.
Do we have any last questions before we all sign off? I will definitely be calling you separately, Councilmember Schneider, and following up on those discussions. And I just want to thank you all again for taking the time to be with us. We are really grateful for your support and your engagement, and we look forward to working with all of you to figure out how to end hunger in our communities. So thank you so much.
Thank you all.